so, said the wise Alondo.
Hi there, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Danny.
Welcome to Mages and Murderdads, episode 18. Episode 18. This is still probably the only video podcast dedicated to the Baldur's Gate series. And we're playing Siege of Dragonspear.
Man, 18.
18 episodes. That's roughly 18 hours of content.
Could you imagine us back on episode 9 and thinking about, man, we're really accomplishing it. We've done 9 episodes, and now it's like we've done that twice.
We've done double the amount of the accomplishment that we had long time ago.
Exactly.
That's the real, that's what people don't get these days. It's what millennials don't understand. Is that you gotta...
Math, multiplication.
Well, yeah. Yeah, that. I've seen on Facebook the way they learn math wrong these days.
Fucking Common Core.
Oh, the Common Core. Oh, that's... all right, tune in next Wednesday for the Common Core cast. It's our very special podcast about math.
Mm-hmm.
And hate and education.
Absolutely.
So you can follow us on Twitter. If you don't do that already, you can follow me on Twitter. Are you still on Twitter, or did you delete your thing again?
I'm still on Twitter. I just haven't tweeted in a little bit. But I do need to make an announcement on Twitter, which says, thanks for all the YouTube comments, because the last episode 17, got 10 comments on it. And I promised that if it got 10 comments, that I would make a video where I loaded an old save and found a way to kill that terrible half ogre, Tazok. I'm gonna do that.
So years ago, in content time, Danny promised to smite a Tazok, and I'm only assuming that if you were listening to this episode, that you in fact have listened to that episode as well. But if you haven't, that occurred, and then he did not actually do so. He went through the entirety of Baldur's Gate 1 without smiting a single Tazok. And so now he's going to go back in time. You know, there are things you go back in time to do. Number 1, hunt dinosaurs. Easy. Number 2, kill Hitler.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Kill Hitler. 3, invest in Google.
Or Apple. You know, kind of take
Apple.
your pick. You got to diversify.
Mm-hmm.
But number 4, Smite Tazok.
Smite Tazok. So it's going to happen, and we'll publish that. I don't know.
Next
I don't know
Thursday,
when, but
1
sure.
week from the day that this goes up.
Yeah, we'll do that. Fun stuff. So I oftentimes do a recap of how we got here in the story.
Mm-hmm.
Let's throw it over to Kunzelman. Let's see how he does a recap. Let's see his own personal style and flair. Let's see how that looks in recap mode.
So Siege of Dragonspear, so far what has happened is we were told that we were the hero of Baldur's Gate after we slayed Serafok. We traveled to, with a lot of arbitrary things that happened in the middle, we traveled to some bridges. One bridge blew up, the other did not. We broke a siege, but not the Siege of Dragonspear, and then we did break the Siege of Dragonspear. And here we are, in hell. That's it, right? That's all that's happened?
And we're in hell now.
And we're in hell. So at the end of last episode, Kalar Argent, the kind of big bad of this expansion, of the Siege of Dragonspear expansion, she used our blood, her and her buddy Heffernan. Heffernan's like a mage, cleric, priest, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bad guy.
He's a level 17 geomancer with dual-classed cleric and wizard.
Is that real?
No, I made that up.
Okay,
right now.
yeah, I didn't feel like geomancer was an appropriate kit.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So at the very end of the last episode, they gave us a little knifing, and our blood dripped on the ground. A literal gate to hell opened, and then we were sealed inside of a vault, and then we went to hell. We jumped in the portal and zipped right on down to hell.
Avernus, if you're a Poindexter out there.
Mm-hmm. In Dungeons and Dragons, there's a notion of there are lots of different kind of planes, right? There's a multiverse of different spots. Maybe I'll try to find a little map of that and I'll insert it here in the video. But yeah, there are the 9 hells, right? Mm-hmm. There are 9 different ones. Do you know what they are?
I can't name them all. No.
Well, name as many as you can while I look them up.
Oh gosh, there's Avernus. Which one was Bane in? Asmodeus is a devil, not a hell. I can't name the actual planes of hell, like off the top of my head.
Okay, let's see.
I know
here.
that like the themes are Avernus is like the most stereotypical from like the Judeo-Christian perspective, or like whatever cultural accoutrement that's picked up.
All right,
I guess it's more Norse, right?
I've got him going.
Okay,
Avernus, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's fire hell.
Yeah,
Okay, that's where the fire hell stuff happens. You have Dis, which is like a sad city zone. The Iron City of Dis. Dispater is there. You have Minaros, which is an endless bog of vile pollution. This is where Mammon is. You got Phlegethos, which is like a fire in earth kind of thing. You have Stygia, which is a bottomless ocean covered by an ice sheet. Stygia, the Stygian stuff is, all this is kind of like Dante influenced. You got Malbolge, and then Maladomine, and then Cania, and then Nessus. So there you go. That's all of them. That's the 9 hells.
I like how you kind of gave up on themes. Halfway through.
They became less apparent in this Wikipedia that I'm reading currently.
I gotcha.
Mm-hmm. So in case you were curious about that, or you know what, if you have like deep D&D knowledge of the 9 hells, drop that off in the Reddit. Put in the comments here. We're definitely interested, but not interested enough to look it up ourselves.
We're really lucky we didn't just get sent to Stygia and just drown immediately.
Yeah. There are certain hells you just can't send characters to.
Yeah. But this one's the classic. This is Hell Classic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Hell TM.
So we get sent to Hell, and there's a awful lot of trash mobs down here.
It's hell because there's just trash mobs who hang out that you have to murder.
Yeah.
That's the whole that's why it is hell. But yeah, so hell consists of 4 screens.
Yeah.
Four little zones. And the first zone is just like some demons hanging out. And I didn't play, I've played part of Icewind Dale, but I have not completed Icewind Dale, and it's been a long time since I have played it. But apparently the character models in this game of these demons are from an Icewind Dale game, Icewind Dale 1 or 2.
Icewind Dale 1, and a matter of fact, I don't know if this is like too big of a spoiler, but I'm pretty sure that there are some characters that we're going to meet in Hell, and there might be some overlap between those characters in Icewind Dale 1. So I'm not going to say too much, but we'll see when we get to Icewind Dale in I guess Jill Stein's second term.
Yeah, right in the middle of the second term, when she gets rid of the FDA once and for all, thankfully.
And relocates all of America to Antarctica.
Well, I mean, we got to get where the caps are.
Got to get where the caps are, and also that's around the time that like the Antarctica's melted enough that it's revealed like the Cyclopean architecture of like the Mountains of Madness. If you ever read that book, that's documentary. When we get there, you're going to find out. I mean, the whole point of Mages and Murderdads is probably going to go right down the tubes. Honestly, by the time we reveal the Cyclopean architecture at the bottom of the Arctic poles, but you know what? You got to fill up the time somehow. Like, don't why
judge
not
us.
with us?
Yeah, why not with us? So yeah, this first thing of hell is there's these demons running around, and there are 2 crusaders there.
Yeah.
And they say, help us. We didn't know what we were getting into when we went to hell. So what did Balthazar do? How did Balthazar deal with these people who literally, I cannot stress this enough, who literally went to hell and were like, uh-oh, I've made a bad choice?
Well, in their defense, it is a little ambiguous as to how planned it was for Kalar and the other, Crusaders to roll in. I think there was like a little bit of dialogue at the end that implied that it wasn't Kalar's plan to go right then.
Yeah, it wasn't her plan to go with like 11 people either.
Yeah, yeah. She's ultimately in a revelation of her cowardice. She's like, "Oh, I thought it was going to be the army first. I didn't realize they're going to throw me down here immediately." But yeah, I went and killed all the demons.
But did you save the people?
Yeah, I think 2 survived.
I think that's all that they can survive. Yeah, I did the same thing, and I was like, I kind of waggled my finger in their face, and I said, "You should not do that no more. That bad. That thing you did is bad." Yeah,
the enemies in Hell that we're running into, they've got a few different varieties, but you've got imps that have like a lot of CC abilities, so they like knock people unconscious, they charm folks. You've got these Hellcats that are almost like displacer beasts, in that they're always like disappearing and then coming back, which is kind of annoying for Balthazar because I have AI turned off, so I'll have to like re-click them to kill them every time they do that. And you've also got just a lot of big old fellas that just kind of hit hard, and that's kind of their thing.
Yeah, these like winged, like classic devil looking fellas,
and also some bone golems.
Oh, I didn't have any bone golems.
Well, they kind of look like bone golems to me. But yeah, no, that kind of covers it though. So once you clear up the trash in this screen, you got to move to the next screen, and there's some more trash mobs on a bridge. And you got to kill those things.
Yeah, I think that this ending section of Siege of Dragonspear is like the problems of this thing laid bare. Of like, we have literally been transported to hell for a massive climactic battle. Like, that's the whole point of being here, right? Like, there's no other content here other than fighting a bunch of demons and devils because they live here, right? It's like teleporting into a squirrel's nest and just having to fight a bunch of squirrels, right? That's not the fun part of teleporting into a squirrel's nest. Fun part's getting all the nuts, fighting the mama squirrel.
Oh, yeah.
Right? All that stuff.
Well, also, I think it's also, like in a lot of Forgotten Realms novels that I've read, oftentimes when there's a climactic, like, intra- or interplanar conflict, I'm thinking specifically of, like, the War of the Spider Queen novels, where you follow, like, a bunch of drow, and in the end, they kind of confront Loth. But a lot of that confrontation, you're not necessarily dealing with a bunch of demons in the abyss, right? Because in the story, it's just not that dramatic to deal with a bunch of chumps in hell.
Exactly. And I would put forward that even in a game, narratively, it's not that interesting to deal with a bunch of chumps in hell.
Yeah. No, I think I'm kind of behind you. I think that, I mean, ultimately, do we not want to get to a point in gaming where, like, all kind of conflict is meaningful and there are no chumps? But there's just going to be chumps, like, as a manner of course in the genre. But at the point where the entire trip is just a set piece, like, this is the ultimate thing. Like, this is what people are going to remember narratively about the ending point of this game. I don't know. Like, I think I died 1 or 2 times to some of these trash mobs, like here, and in just a second we're going to talk about an elevator, but it's just not particularly memorable, and I just felt like the game was just kind of running the clock out a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like, so this character that shows up in this next screen, which is called Thrix, its name is Thrix. I feel like you teleport people into hell. You have the little set piece with Kalar, because we're on a bridge. We see Kalar just kicking ass up and down, taking names. She storms into a keep and the door locks behind her. Mm-hmm. Then this guy named Thrix, or this thing named Thrix, appears, and like he's basically like, "Do you want to play a game?" Like that kind of like weird fantasy.
Thrix is cool. So Thrix basically reveals in his dialogue that he is the kind of minion of a much greater demon named Belafet. And there are a lot of ways this dialogue can go out. When I first interact with Thrix, he's like, "I'm going to test you." And he summons like 6 demons that I have to kill.
Yeah, so I had the same thing happen. And so they summons the demons, and I tried a couple times, and I cannot do it. Like I'm having a very hard time finding these demons. I don't know why. I was having a hard time. So what I did is I like backed all of my characters up, like way far. I summoned some monsters to give like a nice buffer. Basically, I just needed room to like cast spells. I need a little bit of time. So I do all of this setup. It's probably like 2 full minutes of setup. I haste on my people. I run someone up to talk to him to trigger the thing, and then I run back. And on the run back, they all just despawn, and I automatically win.
Yeah.
Like all I had to do was run away, and the encounter was completed. So I never actually did the fight.
Yeah, so the first time I did this, there was actually a bug where I went up to Thrix, he spawned everything, but then I because I saw where they were going to spawn in because they have that kind of bone gateway spawn in animation. And in running around, like anticipating I wanted to be next to them when they spawned in, and I wanted to be next to a very specific one, I was next to Thrix, and I accidentally initiated dialogue with Thrix, and then he talked to me as if I had killed them, even though they were still there.
Oh, that's awesome. That's rad.
Yeah.
Where it's like pure willpower. You're like, listen, buddy. Let's just talk it out.
What happened next was interesting. So Thrix is like, "Oh, I'm impressed that you killed those guys. But, I'm not letting you through this gate. I'm not allowed to let people through this gate because my master said I can't." And then I just looked at Thrix and I was like, "You don't fucking understand the situation you're in, do you? I'm your master. You open that gate, son."
Dang. Did it work?
And then he got angry and summoned more monsters that I killed, but the gate was open after that.
So that's how you didn't be tested by him or anything?
No. I'm not being tested by a demon. That's not... he's not the teacher.
That's not
I'm the
Balthazar.
teacher.
That's not Balthazar's thing. All right, well, that is Ticklevar's thing. So I said, well, why, yes, teacher. I would love for you to teach me a lesson about the stuff. And so he's like, "Yo, I want to ask you a riddle." Because everyone is always asking me riddles. How many riddles have we solved in this expansion? Like 4?
I'd say a half dozen.
A full 6 riddles. Yeah, like half a egg carton of riddles. So he asked me, he says, but you have to wager something important. You got to wager something good. And he says, "I want you to wager one of your companions." And then he was like, "Well, what about, I forget who he wanted first." He's like, "What about this party member?" And I was like, "Nah, maybe not. Maybe not that party member." I think it might have been Dinah here. He was like, "Maybe not Dinah here.
She's hasting everybody."
Yeah, she's utility. I need her." And so then he was like, "Well, what about Jahira?" And I was like, "Maybe not Jahira either. Like, she's, she's got more hit points than anybody else."
This is where you're wishing you had Khalid in the party.
Well, it ends up working out because then he was like, "Well, what about Corwin?" And I was like, "Okay, that's cool. That's like totally fine with me. That's all right." And I guess whoever you like throw under the bus has a line of dialogue, and so she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna stick my foot up your ass," basically is what she says. But interestingly enough, I was like, you know what? I wanted to wager my friend Corwin, but instead I'm going to wager myself. And he says, "Okay, you can wager yourself." So I went through all that for nothing. But, so he asked me this riddle, and it's like, I don't know, like, the states in the light, it's bad, but states needed in the darkness. And It
The answer to all these riddles in this game is murder. By the way.
Yeah, it was murder. Yeah, it was the thing was I like took a long time to do it, and I like waited on it. I like went up and I went and like got tea and came and sat back down because I like didn't want to do it and I didn't want to look it up, right? Because I didn't feel right. And so I do all of this, and yeah, of course it's murder. And then he offers me 3 items. Did you have an option for an item?
No. I told him to go screw himself.
Well, you don't get the benefit. So I had the option between like a sword, a staff, and a helm. And I took the helm. The sword was like it was a long sword, which was not going to be helpful because no one uses a long sword in my party. The staff I didn't think would be very helpful, even though in retrospect it definitely would have been. And then the helm was just like a helm of good stats. It was like 20% resistance to a bunch of types of damage. So I got that. Sure. Which is good. So yeah, that was my experience with Thrix. And I was like, yo, like you should let me. If you don't think that your master is the best master to ever be, then maybe you should help me out here, buddy. Because if I kill him and come back, it's bad for you.
Oh.
That was the implication through my dialogue.
Interesting.
I thought that was fun.
Know, Thrix is also strong enough to just be able to teleport anywhere at will in Avernus, so
yeah,
not sure if that's going to be a problem for him.
Well, I don't know. If I become his boss, can I just remove that from Thrix?
I don't know how planar authority works.
I think that's how it works. In the DC Comics universe, that's how it works. Mm-hmm. And we know that D&D is, of course, patterned after the DC Comics universe's use of hell.
Absolutely. No, that's true.
Legally distinct hell.
Yeah, I don't know. So once you fight or talk your way past Thrix, the gatekeeper, you get on an elevator and you go up the elevator, and there are 3 trash mob fights on the elevator. And I think the interesting mechanical impact of this is you're about to have the final boss fight. And you cannot rest immediately before the final boss fight. You have to get on this elevator. You can't rest on the elevator. And you've got to fight 3 little mini battles. Yeah. So it's a little attrition mechanic.
Yeah, let me tell you, having multiple spellcasters in your party really hurts.
How's that?
Well, because then I have to have 3 battles using spells, theoretically, going up this fucking elevator.
Was it possible to do those battles without casting spells and using them?
Yeah, well, kind of. Like, it ended up being fine, but like the final fight of the game that we'll talk about in just a minute took basically every spell that every character had. I mean, it was a full party team effort, and so, having that extra couple of magic missiles or whatever is kind of important.
Sure.
But so you had a problem with the elevator?
Not really. I did find. So the question is, what do I want to lose? What do I want to lose in terms of resources? Potions or uses of Berserk? Because those are like I have 3 uses of Berserk. And the final fight was long enough that I needed all 3. What I ended up doing was I just drank a lot of potions on the elevator, ride up. And there were several mobs in the elevator ride that could just like cast Dire Charm on you, and that's game over. And Balthazar's number 1 defense against that was Berserk, because you're immune to basically everything when you're berserking. So I just ended up, like, you could quick save in between fights on the elevator, so I would just reload if I got hit by a charm and just try to be at the place where the monster that would end up casting charm appeared, and just usually being able to, like, interrupt spell casting before they went through with it. So
that's interesting. I can see, because like the micro tactics that you're having to use like here at the end of Siege and Dragonspear. I wonder when we get to Baldur's Gate 2, and very, very soon, actually. I wonder if you're going to have to be doing this much micro. It feels like the skill level required to play the end of Siege and Dragonspear is much higher than even most of Baldur's Gate 2.
Maybe. I do think that from some of the stuff I read, this final fight might be one of the more difficult fights to do as like a solo player specifically.
I think it's just one of the harder fights, period, in any of these games. Like I've played through
any of the games.
Like I've played through Baldur's Gate 2 several times, and like it's a hard game, but not an impossibly difficult game. And I took probably 2 hours on this last fight.
Whoa.
Yeah, I played it for a very long time, and then took a break, and then came back to it to finish it.
Wow. So we get to the final fight. The elevator gets to the very top. Kalar, Heffernan, a giant demon that we find out is named Belafet, who's kind of the ominous individual, the ominous voice that was speaking to Heffernan when I was eavesdropping on them in Dragonspear Castle, and a couple chapters ago. He's there. There's a figure in a cage behind all these people, and there's some crusaders, and they're fighting demons. And there's a little fight, and Kalar's like, "I won't let you have him," and Belafet kind of smacks her across the room. She kind of flies back all the way to the elevator, and then dialogue starts, and you discover a few things. Heffernan comes out and says, haha, now you understand. Kalar was only doing this to save one person. Which was kind of hinted at a little bit in a dream sequence that we had.
Yeah, there are, hundreds of lines of dialogue where any of this information could have been given to us. But as far as I know, we only got that one flashback to her as a child, basically. And the implication, I didn't go through all of the dialogue to figure all of this out, but the implication to me was that she had accidentally sold her soul to the devil, and that her uncle took her place because he was a priest of Lathander.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It was something. They had obviously, when Kalar was 10 years old, they had a confrontation, and they were in hell somehow. So I don't know how, you've made bad life decisions already.
Yeah, as a 10-year-old.
To wind up in that situation. Yeah.
Real Home Alone situation.
Yeah. What a mess. What a supreme mess. But yeah, so in some way or another, Kalar's uncle, Aun, an unpronounceable collection of vowels, took Kalar's place, and he's just been hanging out in hell for the last 2 decades, right? But Heffernan kind of reveals, see, Kalar was just doing this to save one person, all this garbage she's caused, all this terrible refugee crisis, all the death, just to save one person. And Kalar's defense is the weakest defense I've ever heard. Well, I mean, I would have freed other people if I, figured out how to while I was down here. Well, was literally her response.
I mean, that's probably true. I didn't see a lot more other people around.
That's the thing, right? I don't even know what the metaphysics of the situation is in a Forgotten Realms context. Do people, was there something specific about the Dragonspear Wars that made people go to Avernus?
Well, I don't think that people just went to Avernus. I think people were dragged into Avernus in the Dragonspear Wars.
Okay.
You see,
why?
No, because literally demons came out and got them and took them back to hell. It's not just they died in the Dragonspear Wars.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
people were dragged physically to hell.
Okay.
In the way that her uncle is, right?
Yeah,
so it's not just their souls, even though that is involved, but I think bodily as well. And that seems to be a special circumstance here.
Okay. So that's revealed, And at this point, there are kind of a few different dialogue options you can take in reacting to this kind of revelation. How did you play this?
I was like, yo, y'all, this sucks. And then I was like, Kayla Argent, you want to be on my team now? And she said, yeah, and then the fight happened.
Yeah, so they basically, there comes a point where I can choose a lot of different options. And Belithet's like, I'm gonna steal your soul forever, Kayla Argent.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, yeah, no loss to the world there. Kayla Argent is a real jerk, and she deserves whatever is coming for her. And if you don't kill her, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
At which point, Kayla Argent, like, hey, Bella, don't kill me. I'll become your blackguard.
Yeah.
I'll become your blackguard under one condition only. You got to kill Heffernan because I'm really angry at him because he tricked me. And Belithet's like, totally. I would much rather have a blackguard than like some wimpy mage. And then he just burns Heffernan up, and then they both attack me.
Mm-hmm. So you're fighting this fight on hard mode then?
Yeah, I attempt it several times, and then I reload and do what you did.
Dang.
It is not like, as much as I want to do Balthazar fidelity roleplay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would have been doable. The problem is I would eventually just run out of berserks.
Yeah.
Like, that's the real limiting factor in soloing as a barbarian, is like I have so many of those, and once they're out, any one of the respawning mobs could CC me, and it became over. But yeah, I really hated it that I had to play it this way, because in order to get Kalar on my team, none of those dialogue options would have been things that Balthazar said.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, of course.
Like, the only reaction that makes sense for Balthazar would be to condemn Kalar Argent immutably. Because Balthazar does not see her as redeemable.
Yeah.
Whatsoever.
Well, and she doesn't seem to want to be redeemed, right? It's like,
no,
I don't think she thinks she did anything wrong.
Redeemed. Yeah, no, she's still 100% like in favor of her ideology that led to all this. Like, there was never a questioning whatsoever at any point. And at one point she talked about her faith, and even that is subordinate to her own will. Kalar Argent is just straight up evil in this game. Like, there's no like way around it. Mm-hmm. Like, even she's like, and I'm a worshiper of Lathander, but even that, what I want's more important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've talked about this before, that like of the kind of narrative development idea of every good villain is the protagonist of their own story. Mm-hmm. And it seems like Siege of Dragonspear took that to its logical limit of like every villain is a narcissist who
Sure.
cannot see beyond their own story.
Mm-hmm.
And while I guess that is cool and fine from like mechanically, in the sense of it does work and it does provide plot points that move us through this entire narrative, blah, 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 I don't find that super compelling, right? Like, I think any moment of reflection here would have been good. Of her being like, oh, wow, how about that? Maybe I am a bad-o. Maybe I'm bad.
Yeah, there's no reflexivity on that. But an enemy is just a friend whose story you're not ready to hear.
It sounds like is that from Oprah? Who said that?
You get a car.
and you get an appropriate narrative. And you get an appropriate
narrative. But yeah, so unfortunately I do have to do the fight on easy mode, and that entails like Kalar taking my side. Mm-hmm. And I think there are actually two versions. One version is Kalar is just like an NPC. Mm-hmm. There's like a weak version where you're like, hey, fight back. And there's another version where she actually joins your party and you can control her.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How do you get that version?
I think you have to do so the full-throated defense is saying, hey, at first I was upset at Kalar, but now I realize it's really, you that's behind all this. right? Which is very much not what Balthazar would want to say. And then the very next dialogue option, you say, "Fight with me, Kalar," and then she actually joins your party, and you can control her.
Oh, I did that, but I didn't get to control her.
But you've got a full party.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
That's probably it, yeah. But she's, when she joins your party, she's like level 15.
I mean, she was just a normal fighting NPC for me, and she was still, I mean, she did the vast majority of the labor that was involved, because, for the most part, none of my party could hit her, or could hit Belafel. Belafet. Just straight up couldn't. Did not have weapons that were good enough to hit him.
I think you need a +3 or better, right?
You need a +3. I had that same sword that you do, like dragon, whatever. The two-handed sword. So Minsk could hit him. And so my whole fight was literally like prepping everyone to be hasted up, fire resistance on Minsk, potion of storm giant strength to give him like 23 strength, and then sending him for that, and just everyone else running around like Benny Hill style. It took me so long to do this, and the saddest part about it is the closest I got, except for like the last time when I finally did it, the closest I got was all of my party died except for Jahira and my main character. And Kalar Argent just basically killed him by herself. He got down to like one little pip of health, and then I died. So it was just like almost pure luck. And I wasn't even controlling them. I like got up and walked away because I was just so fed up with it. And then the AI was doing better than I had done. So
yeah. So like the
discouraging.
mechanic of the fight is that in this version, Heffernan immediately turns into a demon. And this is a fight where you got Heffernan, a demon, and Belafet himself. And Belafet has several attacks. He can like call down a column of flame. He can hit you with his swords. He can turn a large circular area around him like into crazy fire.
Oh no!
It just damages everybody in that area.
So the reason you see it as that is because I guess you're meleeing him all the time. But that is actually a fireball that shoots to a place and then makes the like area of effect. So it's even worse.
Oh, it is worse. Yeah, I thought it was just centered around him, but yeah, you're right. I was always just next to him, so that's how I experienced it.
He could just fire that off at anybody, anywhere on the screen.
And he did that, and throughout the fight, you have from the four corners of the map, well, at the beginning of the fight, you have like 3 ads that are just kind of demon ads, which are like 100% worth your time to kill those ads because they're much easier to kill than the damage they deal out, which is always the equation you gotta make with ads. Like, how long are these going to be around if I do not kill them, and how much damage they will do?
Yep.
And so definitely worth killing. And throughout the fight, he will summon more ads, like with a little demon gate. And he also kind of has like an interesting, at least when I was fighting him, I'd be interested with like, you had a lot more party members, so line of sight was in more places. But occasionally, like, he would dimension door out and like go behind a column.
Yeah, he just
there
does
would
that.
kind of be some respite, and I would be able to like heal up with some potions and then re-engage.
Yeah, I think for that is just to like mix up where he is, so that then he can ambush you. Yeah, I think sometimes he would just straight up teleport behind one of my characters and hit them. Yeah, and he was sanctuaried and invisible a lot, so I had to like use spells to get rid of that, and that was weird.
Yeah.
But yeah, did Kalar make it through your fight?
Kalar did make it through my fight.
She did not make it through like most of the times when I got close, but the final one where I actually did it, and she was one of the only ones. The final fight that where I won, it was just Ticklevar and Dynahir who made it out alive. Everyone else was dead, and it was the point where I was like, there's probably not a lot of game left, right? So I'm probably okay. And then when I realized there was a little bit of game left, I just said, screw it. I was like, I'll figure it out. because I'm
Yeah.
not doing that fight ever again.
So after the fight, and this would have been both of us, Kalar goes over to her uncle, and her uncle basically scolds her for coming back, doing any of this stuff.
Yeah.
And I choose all the dialogue options. They're like, no, your uncle's right. You're a real piece of shit.
Dang.
That didn't learn anything.
Yeah, she did not learn very much.
It was weird. There were some dialogue options where you could be like, hey, you're ungrateful, uncle. Which I think is just so bizarre after a genocidal maniac, like, turns heaven and earth and murders hundreds of thousands of people in order to save a person. And then when that person realizes what that person did to save them, they're like, why did you do this? The reaction would be like, you're so ungrateful. You're so ungrateful. Like, I killed so many people for you. Why don't you understand? And why don't you thank me?
Yeah, why aren't you more gracious?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And at the very end, Kalar, when we leave, the only thing that can close the portal is the blood of a powerful demon. So thank goodness we killed that Belafet.
Mm-hmm.
And the uncle and I leave, and Kalar's like, no, I'll stay behind and close it. And I said, no, that's good. You deserve to be here.
Yeah, I think I also said that. I think I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
For you to be trapped in hell forever. You know
Yeah.
who we have not talked about yet?
Who's that?
Our good friend, the hooded figure.
Oh, man.
You think, does that guy show up again? Do you think? Well, actually, really quickly before we talk about the hooded figure, I just want to paint a picture of Chikelvar's experience coming out of Avernus.
Sure.
Okay, we'll do a little fan fiction here.
Okay.
So, right before they go to hell, Chikelvar learns all kinds of things, right?
Mm-hmm.
He learns about Corwin and Corwin's daughter, and how that relationship is very important to Corwin. He learns about Danni and Minsk, and how they are a part of this Rashimi kind of group, and how there are other people like them, and how they just want to learn and travel the world. He learns that Viconia has a thing for him, and really, really appreciates him as a person, wants to be romantic with him, all of that. He goes to hell. All of those people die. Like, every single one of those people except for Danni here. They are all dead. Their corpses languish in Avernus. Right? In hell. He comes back from that, and they never speak about any of them again. No one asks questions about it. There's no dialogue about it. Nothing. It is as if they had never existed. And I think that says a lot about Chikelvar as a character.
Well, doesn't it also say a lot about the coalition troops too? They always just saw those people as hangers-on, right?
Yeah. They are. It's the hero of Baldur's Gate and others. It's like the Dave
company.
Yeah, it's like the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah,
Like, we know who the really important person is there, right? Mm-hmm. It's Dave Matthews.
Totally. But yeah, we get out of hell, and we get a little welcoming party, and they're like, oh, we got some beds upstairs you can rest, and I go to bed, and it says, oh, there's a party until late at night, and then there's a cutscene, and this is some strange stuff that happens.
Yeah, I think that this is a bad idea.
Okay.
Like, narratively. Like, from a narrative design standpoint. I think maybe having the hooded figure throughout this game is a bad idea. In general, like, I get why you would do it. Like, it totally makes sense to me. I think that the payoff is very strange here. So, what happens in this weird scene, Danny?
What happens is, you see Ski down, like, you roll up on Ski, and Ski is talking to the hooded figure. And the hooded figure's like, I need to test you. I need to see what you're made out of. And he casts a weird spell where Ski's, like, imprisoned in a yellow box, and then, like, you see, like, a soul roll out of Ski, like, fly up into the air, and then she's on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, all that spell coalesces into this monster, the same monster that's been killing you in your dream every dream, right?
Every damn dream.
Every damn dream has this urine monster. and
Wait,
you're in a
what?
monster.
I'm sorry. That gets me. All right, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay, and every dream has it, but in this time, it's not a dream. Well, at least you can like control yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're running
So
around.
it attacks me, and I attack it back, and I just one shot it. Bam, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, like the hooded figure, like mean mugs me a little bit more, and I fall unconscious. And then when I wake up and I'm in that hall, and it's as if like instead of the monster, it was Ski apparently.
Yep.
And she's like at my feet when I wake up, and I am immediately blamed for the murder of Ski, who is like the commander. I forget his name, but the really, really French guy.
Intar
his daughter.
Silvershield.
Silvershield, yeah. Mm-hmm. Silvershield's daughter. It's a bad thing.
Yeah, it's like like the worst possible thing. So all of this entire expansion, like having to pay attention to her and like keep up with her and make sure she's not dying in the Dragon Spear siege, all of that for nothing.
Yeah.
So you can kill her. So she can be like fridged at the very end to put the plot, one step further.
It's a pretty pure example of fridging. Like there's no... Yeah. Although I guess generally fridging happens earlier on to provide motivation throughout, whereas this is to provide some kind of denouement.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I don't know. It's weird on so many levels, and we'll get to like how weird it is. But throughout this entire like next bit, which is just like being brought back to Baldur's Gate, a kangaroo court, every dialogue option where they're like, "What do you have to say in your defense?" I'm like, I don't have a fucking thing to say to you. Move on with it.
Yeah. So after this,
which it was very much like Danny as a person coming through in Balthazar and being like, "Look, I know this game's almost over. Let's move it along here."
Yeah, I don't know why the game needs to do this to like get us ready for Baldur's Gate 2. I don't understand why the stakes shift so much. So what happens is that after you murder Ski, Vince Duncan, like the knight who was kind of charged with making sure that Ski made it out alive, arrests you. You are taken back to Baldur's Gate, and you are put on trial as like a ball spawn, right? They're kind of being like, look, we knew the Lord of Murder was in your blood the whole time. We remember what happened with Saravok, so, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, kill the ball spawn, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so you get put up on trial, and I don't even know if it's an actual kangaroo court, like, it seems like a real trial, but where you can defend yourself. You can, like, pronounce the acts of goodness that you did in order to defend yourself. What did you have to defend yourself with?
No, I told you. Every dialogue
you just
option
literally
I
were
said,
like not participating?
Yeah, I'm like, I do not recognize the sovereignty of this court. That flag has a gold fringe on it. I sovereign citizened it.
So it's not a real flag.
This is not a real flag. It does not preside over a real court. This is not a legitimate. That's why I said it's kangaroo court. I didn't recognize its authority whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I said nothing.
Well, so I did. I participated in the thing, and the game basically lets you use your character as your defense, like your quality of character. But what I was able to say was not what I wanted to say.
Okay, how's that?
Well, I wanted to be like, look at all the stuff I did. And if I hadn't have done that, literally they would have opened a gate to hell. That's all I wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I've murdered thousands of people. And not people. Thousands of entities. Some of which were lords of hell. And all kinds of weird shit happened. Like, we opened a gate to hell. Is it not thinkable that I might have been tricked in some way? Like, say, through magic? And then when you ask, you're like, well, isn't it possible that, you could scry, or have some seers check out and see what happened? They're like, well, I don't know. There was magic that was all over that area, so we couldn't see what happened. And that seems to suggest that perhaps I might be being targeted here. But no. So, like, I was able to defend my character by saying that I had, like, put myself up with Thrix rather than a teammate. Like, that's one thing I could defend myself with.
That is so bizarre. You're here in the public square in Baldur's Gate, accused of murdering a high-ranking military official's daughter. What do you have in your defense? Well, when we were in hell, trying to save the world...
Trying to solve a riddle.
That's not enough. No, you got to say, I risked myself when answering a riddle instead of somebody else. So
yeah, and there were
how
like,
could I pop?
So there were like 3 or 4 things I could say, and I said them all, and I don't think it ended up mattering. I looked at the walkthrough when I was done to like figure out what I could have done there, and apparently, if you have I don't remember if it was 4 or 6. If you have a certain amount of like good character things, I'm using air quotes here, good character things, then later on, Duke Belt springs you out of jail.
Instead of some thief.
Instead of a thief. So that's pretty cool. So, but no matter what happened, for me and for you, I guess, they take you, they put you in Flaming Fist jail. They say you're going to be executed? Yep, you're going to be executed, and then a thief comes and breaks you out.
Well, before that, hooded figure comes, mean mugs you one more time.
Yeah, he just gets that last mean mug in.
Knocks you out, and you have a vision when you're unconscious. And in the vision, you see that it was actually the hooded figure that killed Corwin with a dagger.
Oh, that's right.
We killed a ski.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, with like the Soul Stealer knife.
With the Soul Stealer knife or what have you. And he asked me like several times after I like came to, well, what did you see in the vision? And I was like, I saw me murdering you when I get out of here. And then he was like, no, you didn't. What did you really see? No, you don't understand. I saw me wrenching your neck with my bare hands.
Dang.
When I get out of here.
That's
And
some
then he's
like high-level threat.
Oh, it is. And he's like, well, you still have a lot of learning to do. And then he disappears.
Zips on out of there.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so a thief comes and gets you. Oh, God, this is just so weary. I'm so weary of the end of this game, even talking about it. So he, like, takes you and he says, hey, go through these goddamn sewers to escape. And you go through these goddamn sewers to get out of there.
And you reenact a scene from The Fugitive.
And you reenact... Well, first, there's a battle mage in the sewers for no damn reason. Like, it's someone with a sword and spellcasting abilities.
Mm-hmm.
And they're just coming at you. That didn't make any sense to me. And then, yeah, so there is a waterfall, and Vince Duncan is there. And he's like, don't you jump. Don't do it. And then you do it. You jump.
Yeah.
And then you get on out of there. You meet...
You say, I'm innocent. And then Tommy Lee Jones says, I don't care.
That's true. He doesn't care. Vince Duncan is Tommy Lee Jones this whole time. I don't know how I didn't put that together.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you get out of there. You walk through a door, and then Imowen is there.
Mm-hmm.
And Imowen says, hey, I brought all your friends. And then Dinah here is there. Like
only Dinah here?
Only Dinah here. I have one.
All your other friends are dead.
Because they're all dead, their bodies rotting in hell. And so Dinah here is like, hey. And she like actually has real dialogue to say. She like says like some promotional dialogue. Presumably, if you had like a whole party, you would hear like a rousing set of speeches. But this was
all
one
those
buddy.
People, for me, it was assumed that I just like there was like a plausible deniability in the game where it's like you may have never met this person. And so like for me, for Balthazar, it's walking up and there's like a group of 6 strangers that all shame me and is like, you're pretty you probably killed that person. Like, none of them believe that I am innocent.
Really?
Because I never even offered a defense, right? Maybe that plays into it.
That's pretty cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the cutscene from Baldur's Gate 2 happens.
Yeah, so what's funny is, like, so they go to the next screen, everybody's like, "Oh, we need to take a rest," and there's like a second where, okay, let's take a rest, and I'll have a full party, like everybody's in my party, and I immediately go to the party menu to like kick everybody out, but before I can, the cutscene rolls.
Forced into it, not a true solo run. Do
Not
it
a true
again.
solo run. Damn.
You have to slay all possible characters that get into your party. That's how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, weirdly enough, it did when that thing happened. It did add people back when I went to that screen, but they weren't there, I don't think. But it had added back Viconia and someone else, but not the full party.
Interesting.
Which is very strange.
Yeah, and the screen that the cinematic that shows, it's the exact same cinematic as BG2?
No, it's not the same. It's just like the same content, like conceptual content.
Yeah, you're tranquilizer darted.
Which means that a whole lot of story threads in Baldur's Gate 2 will not make any sense.
Yeah.
It will make functionally zero sense. And I guess we'll talk about that when we start Baldur's Gate 2. But it means that the timeline, like there was a deniability of distance between Baldur's Gate 1 and Baldur's Gate 2 that's very helpful for that game.
Sure.
And that you can say that a lot of things happen. So, for instance, I've talked about this already in the previous episodes, but Viconia, when you meet her in Baldur's Gate 2, explains to you that she became a farmer. It was like living her life as a farmer. And now I don't really see how that might have happened. And a lot of similar things. So that means that the place that you begin the game in Baldur's Gate 2, you must have been there for like years.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know, but that's the game. We just finished the game.
That's
the credits roll after that.
It does, and at the end of the credits, it says there is no teaser for another game. Like it explicitly says, there is not a teaser. Thank you for watching the credits, even though there is no teaser for the next game in these credits. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. The ending of this game was just so bizarre to me. I don't know why it had to roll like this. I don't know why we had to go through a sewer. I don't know why we had to have that trial.
Well, yeah, I don't... Because you can't be the hero of Baldur's Gate anymore, right? Like, they have to narratively explain why you are not this giant regional hero. And the reason you're not a giant regional hero is that heroes can't ever do bad stuff. And so, you did a bad thing, and therefore you're not a hero.
But that's the thing. You're forgotten.
Yeah.
Right? Like, your infamy doesn't live on. It's just you're just stricken from the record books?
I don't know.
Or maybe people think you're dead, maybe?
Yeah, that could be it.
That could be
that you were executed.
Yeah.
But your name is the same. I don't know. It doesn't make a lot of sense, like on a high level, but I will say that there are lots of story beats and parts of Siege and Dragonspear that were really good. That I thought were great.
That's true. I think that this was interesting in that it struck a balance between trying to like tie into BG2 while still being its own story. And it was its own story, and I give it props for that because it could have tried to do something very different.
Yeah. But we'll talk about that. We're going to do a wrap-up episode before we start Baldur's Gate 2. And we'll figure out what that means. If you have any questions for us, any stuff you thought was interesting about this game that we never talked about, please let us know in the comments on YouTube or on Reddit. Because we'll talk about them. We'll deal with that kind of thing. You can follow us both on Twitter. The links will be in the description. You should like us on Facebook. I post up some stuff every now and again on the Facebook. That's always good to look at. You should like and subscribe. On this video, you should click that little thing on our page that says, make sure I see everything from them, because we only release videos, once a week at most. Mm-hmm. And, still very happy for all the comments we got. Next week, 7 days from now, you're going to be able to see Danny smite a Tazok.
In real time. Well, it's not live, but I'm gonna record. There'll be minimal editing. There'll be a lot of commentary. There might be a lot of cursing. Who knows? Mm-hmm. It might just be a lot of like footage from OBS of me trying to even like load that game so it works.
Oh, that's
and
gonna
I'll
be
include that.
Cinema Verite.
Oh my god, yeah.
All right, well, so this was episode 18. Thanks so much for listening. I'm Cameron,
I'm Danny.
and this was Mages and Murderdads.
Ciao.